Hey, I'm Ayuma Michelle, and welcome to Let's with Ayuma. This is an online safe space that I started to empower progressive women just like you and I from all around the world to thrive with purpose. Okay? So today I'm going to talk about why women leadership stories are urgent. This is to answer a question that was submitted this week. I'll read it in just a few, but I wanted to address why women leader stories are very urgent, because they are. But before we go any further, you know what time it is. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my content so far. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. You can watch this video and another one, and if you dig it, subscribe. Okay? So, yes, as I'd mentioned, today I'm going to talk about why women leadership stories are urgent. Why women leader stories are urgent. And this comes from a question that I was asked. Actually, it's a question that I'm frequently asked. There's a guy who shared a message. This is a man who actually sent me a message, and he was like, hey, Ayuma, we are also waiting for something for men too. So he's asked me, is there something for men that I do offer? And I always get this question, why not men? Why don't you serve men? Why men and boys? What about the boy child? But a very easy question to that is that it's personal. It's personal for me to serve women. It's personal for me to empower these women leadership stories so that they can change the world. Because for me, it's urgent. And for you to truly understand this, I'll tell you a story about it. You see, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be a woman who feels trapped out of your own voice, out of your own dreams, out of your own ambitions. And it's because I come from a culture which is heavily patriarchal. I mean, heavily patriarchal. And this is why, from this culture, I literally grew up around this culture where women were to be seen and not to be heard. And it's actually said, and it's actually practiced. When you go for various holidays and stuff like that, you interact with women in this culture, and there's this celebration of subservience, and there's a celebration of women being timid, which is men are allowed to speak up, they're allowed to share their dreams, they're allowed to be leaders, they're allowed to earn serious money. But then women are expected to be subjects to men. In fact, women are classified at the same level with children, where you're to be disciplined by the men, guided by the men, provided for by the men, and stuff like that. And you're not even as expected as a woman to speak in the presence of men. You get what I mean? So I know what that is like. And for a very long time, I literally grew up, many people don't know this, but I literally grew up being so timid. I grew up being very introverted. I was so scared. My mom always tells me that I used to cry a lot, and I was very emotional. And it's because I just used to be so scared. And growing up in such a culture, it in fact fuels that timidity and that feeling of, it's like you're scared of everything. Because, guys, I literally didn't know that I had permission to my own life. I didn't know that I had permission to do whatever I wanted in my own life. I didn't know that I had permission to dream. I didn't know that I had permission to pursue my own course instead of the course of what the men in our family prefer to, or rather think that it's good, or see that is the best direction to go. So majority of my early childhood life, that was basically my mindset. I literally did not know I had permission to my own life, to my own aspirations, to my own voice, to my own dreams, to my own ambitions. So I grew up very timid and very with a serious low self-esteem. But until when I grew older, I was exposed to amazing spaces of empowerment, like school, like sports. I was very, very active in sports, and being exposed to various arts and expressive arts. And slowly by slowly, I think it was very important that I was exposed to such spaces, because I saw an alternative of what I knew. I saw an alternative of women who came from families where they were speaking so loudly and powerfully, and they were ambitious, they wanted to make money, they wanted to be successful. I got exposed to, the field in sports. I'm so grateful to sports because it taught me how to take charge of my space on the field, to speak, to communicate, to work as a team, and especially as a team of women towards something. And in academics, being in classrooms where teachers would challenge me to speak up, to raise my hand, to share a point, whether it's right or wrong, I share what my opinion is. And when I was exposed to such spaces of empowerment, that's when I realized, oh my goodness, now I have an opportunity to figure out what my voice sounds like, what it's like, what I dislike, what I want to pursue, what I don't want to pursue. I got permission. I found permission in these empowering spaces to figure out myself, to figure out what I wanted for myself, aside from what my family and my culture had taught me to be as a woman, or what the expectations were. I had finally permission to figure out, what do I want? Who is this woman called Ayuma? In fact, which name do I even prefer being called? And I found that to be so empowering for me, especially as a young woman coming up and growing up into my own selfhood, right? And so what actually happened is that little by little I started embracing this journey. I started embracing the alternative. I started exploring who I am, and it led to a space where the most powerful moment in my life was when I got to choose what I wanted to do for a living. And of course, it did not come easy because the men in my family had already chosen. In fact, they had a meeting, decided what they wanted me to do, but I decided an alternative. Literally, I did not know even what the alternative was, but I was like, anything but what somebody else has to tell me, right? So literally, I chose to pursue whatever I wanted. And obviously, it came with huge sacrifice, which is withdrawal of support. And it was really tough. I'm telling you, it was really tough. But an opportunity presented itself for me. I applied for a scholarship, and I actually got it to study for postgraduate studies in social innovation management. And I found myself, and I got the scholarship, one of the things I'm so proud of. And I actually found myself one time in a classroom where I was being taught storytelling for leadership and for change. And what stood out is because, yes, I had been trained and I had served before, and I had worked before as a journalist. My background training is in journalism. In fact, from one of the best schools in journalism in Kenya. And I had this training from being a news anchor to, directing plays, to, writing for newspapers and magazines. I had done all that. But I had never seen storytelling as a tool for leadership. I had never seen storytelling as an actual service. And this is because in that class I was taught storytelling and how it literally empowered the 2008 Obama elections, and how it was so powerful that this leader's personal story and values were translated using stories to reach citizens, and these citizens who shared the same value of equal opportunity with this leader, who was the very first black man to run for president in this country, USA. He actually convinced citizens to vote him in as the very first black president of the USA, not because of his skin color, but because of their shared values. And how this was taught and how this was trained. And I had never seen storytelling in this particular perspective. I was seriously impressed and fascinated. So I took charge of that bright light from that classroom. And I was like, what if this was taught to women in leadership? Because the reason why Obama ended up as president, why his presidency was so unique, was because he was the first black president. Because he comes from a country which has a lot of racial injustice, especially towards black people. And so I thought, which other group of people suffers the same fate? And I was like, women. all around the world are held back from opportunities because they are women. Just because you have that extra chromosome, X chromosome, that literally separates you from leadership tables. And so I challenged myself to figure out, what does this specific training of storytelling to empower leaders, to connect people with leaders who share the same values, what if it was taught to women? Another thing I noticed was, when I looked into the leadership development space, because I've been in the leadership development space for quite some time, you know, not only in training, but also as a youth mentor. There was also a time I was nominated to be an African youth leader, to represent my country, Kenya, to come up with the SDGs for the UN. I have been in the leadership space for quite some time. And one thing that I noticed is that the training, and even in entrepreneurship, because I was also trained in entrepreneurship, I noticed that lots of the leadership development training is actually tailored for men. It's not tailored for women. And when you look at leadership, men and women, we are, though we literally have the same opportunity to lead, we lead completely differently. Men lead through power and position, women lead through influence, naturally, right? But it does not mean that we can't lead through both. But right now, in the world that we are living in, gone are the days of male leader, like very masculine leadership, of dominance, you know, World War IIs and whatnot. In fact, Obama actually led through feminine leadership skills, because it's more empathetic, it's through influence, it's more collaborative, and those are the kind of leaders that we need. And unfortunately, when I looked into these spaces, if majority of the leadership development training out there is tailored for men, then that means we are leaving out women from truly discovering their selfhood, their natural leadership style, feminine leadership styles, which are literally empowering people like Obama to be president. You know, and many other women I'm seeing, the Fortune 500 company women leaders have actually been using lots of feminine leadership skills. And that's why over the last 5-10 years, we've been seeing lots of women rise up using feminine leadership skills. You know, Sheryl Sandberg, Michelle Obama herself, Oprah. We've noticed these women, Lisa Nichols. We've noticed these women, and even one of my favorite, Melody Hobson. You'll notice these women because they're using feminine leadership skills, because they are operating in their natural alignment of leadership. But this training isn't available. Many people aren't being trained. Many women leaders aren't being trained to lead as women. And the reason why this is so urgent is because women hold 50% of the world's opportunity, 50% of the world's ideas, 50% of the world's innovations, wisdom, contributions, and most importantly, women hold 50% of the world's magic. You see, when we hold back our women and ourselves as women, we are holding back the world from great progress and prosperity. And this is why when you see all around the world, very successful companies, not just financial, holistically successful countries, and they are actually the companies that, or rather the countries that empower women, that take care of their women. Just look at Europe. The countries that are really, really holistically doing well, and they are very happy countries, you will notice that they are countries that proactively take care of their women. So if you take care of your women, you will succeed and you will do well, right? So, and this is why at Let's, I started Let's to specifically empower women leaders from all around the world to lead as women, to be the leading ladies of their lives, to learn what is their natural leadership style, to offer that alternative style of leadership that is urgently needed in this world. We no longer need leaders who are bullies. We need leaders who are empathetic, who are collaborative, who are intuitive, who pay attention to emotional intelligence, who communicate to people and reach people through shared values. Those are the kind of leaders that we need. And imagine, this is how women naturally lead, right? So at Let's, I'm so proud that even over the last 5 years, I've managed to serve over 400 women from 5 continents all around the world, you know, from former Wall Street bosses to stay-at-home moms who want to start their businesses, to female founders, to SMEs, you know, to globe-trotting consultants. You know, these are the kind of women that I have served. And the reason why I am so proud to have served these women is because they offer that alternative of style of leadership. You know, leadership is a skill. It's not, you're not born with it. Leaders are not born. Leaders are trained and made. And this is why I believe women leadership and women's stories are urgent, because those stories, remember the Obama elections, they create a tool to reach people who narratives around our societies are telling us that no, those are the enemies. But they are not really the enemies. We have so much in common than we are taught. And so if Obama was able to become the first black president of the United States because of his story, that his citizens believed and voted for him, I too believe that women leaders, wherever they are placed, they too can become the female first. They too can lead countries, they can lead nations, they can lead organizations, they can lead movements, and they can lead legacies that provide alternatives of shared values and alternatives of amazing, empowering stories that are magical to this world. So that is why women's stories are urgent. That's why women leadership stories are urgent and personal to me. We need an alternative. The world is hungry for alternative stories, right? So I hope that answers your question. And if you're in a place in your life as a woman and in your leadership as a woman where you're asking yourself, okay, I'm in leadership, but I'm really struggling to tell my story, I don't know where to start, please go to my description box where you'll see my website, letsfindyourstory.com/our-services, and you'll see the services that I offer. Is it branding? Do you want, or brand storytelling coaching, or is it do you want to learn those Fortune 500 company strategies that these women are using, you know, for feminine leadership? Do you want to take charge of your story or your voice as a woman? Do you want to figure out who you are, just the way I did? Because I'm not just selling stories, I'm not just selling strategies and tools. I am selling the same transformation that I myself have invested in myself. I invested in myself first as a woman, went through that transformation so that I can offer you. So I'm offering you transformation, not just tools and stories and that. So if you want to figure out the kind of storytelling services that I do offer, check out my website, letsfindyourstory.com/our-services. Check out what is available and reach out to me for a free interview call, and we'll figure out what is the best way forward. If you're also in a space where you're like, oh my goodness, I have a story, I want to empower you and speak life to you to know that your story matters and your story does not belong to you. Your story actually belongs out there changing the world. Our stories are most powerful. Whatever it is you've gone through, it belongs out there to serve, to change, and to transform the world. If you've gone through something and you've survived it, my goodness, there's a woman out there who needs to learn from your story. Because when we share our stories, we give other women permission to know that the same is possible for them. I share my stories today to give people permission to know that you too can figure you out. You too can fight for your selfhood. You too can begin and start your own legacy. You too have permission to serve and to be faithful and to be loyal to your dreams. Do not disobey that inner voice and calling to obey and to serve who you truly are as a woman. Because that's the number one thing the world will never teach you. You have to teach yourself, is how to honor yourself, how to honor your dreams, how to honor your voice, right? So please do it. And if you're figuring out, like, is my story ready? Because yes, your story and you need to be in alignment so that it can be told. Every story has its time. Please check out this free tool that I shared before. It's a checklist for you to It's a checklist for you to figure out whether it's the right time for you to share your story. Because every story has its time, and you and your story need to be in alignment. So please check the tool below, and you can check out more tools available on my online shop, which I'm so proud of, which is letsfindyourstory.com/shop. You will find more tools, more free tools and affordable tools that you can explore. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope that I answered your question as to why serving women is personal to me and why women leadership stories are urgent. Okay, and yeah, so that's all for today. If you have any questions about this topic and what I've said, please comment below and ask me any question, and I'll be happy to respond to you. If you have any questions regarding storytelling, women leadership, or pursuing your purpose, please submit your questions on the comments below, on my DMs, or on my email info@letsfindyourstory.com, and I'll be most happy to respond to it. Okay, so that's all for this week. This is Let's with Ayuma, an online safe space that I started to empower you, the progressive woman from all around the world, to thrive with purpose. Okay, see you in the next video. Remember to like, comment, and to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.